the market staged a smart recovery on Friday amidst geopolitical tensions. However, Dalal Street snapped the 4-week gaining streak, with frontline indices falling 2 to 3% this week. IT, PSU banks and realty were the top sectoral losers. On Editors Roundtable, we'll discuss the week gone by on Dalal Street. We also take a look at how Elon Musk's India visit will play out in the global markets as well as in India. We'll also give you a list of the key earnings to watch out for next week. I'm Sonia Shenoy. With me are the editors today, Nimesh, Nigel and Prashant. Folks, you know, it was interesting. I mean, there were geopolitical pressures this week which sort of dragged down our market. Then you had Infosys earnings as well. I think it was a little bit of a bad cocktail. But let's see how things go from here.
I mean, today was incredible, right? We had a, Sonia, 400-point recovery from the day's lowest point. The Nifty bank recovered 1,000 points. Yeah. You know, so we all say that and it's true, history shows us that when you buy when there are geopolitical events, it works out unless and until it's a big commodity shock or something. It worked in a single day.
But again, it's also all over the place, right? First, there were reports that it's been bombed. Yeah. Then there were denials of that report as well. So I guess it's still all over the place. Yeah. I don't think it's all over yet. I know one needs to be a bit watchful on what's happening on the geopolitical front. So while we recovered smartly in today's market, but let's hope for the best. Hope that, you know, this doesn't continue.
And it was also just a 4-day week, right? Oh, yeah. In 4 days, so much happened in the week.
Yeah. Which was the holiday? I don't remember.
You were too busy thinking about the markets, I think.
But next week, there's 5 days, and I think post that again, we have a 4-day week. So we need to get through next week.
We're getting used to it. Like a 4-day. But Nimesh, what are the dealing rooms talking about? Because, you know, I was just having a word with Swarup Mohanty a while back on our show Smart Money. And he said that, you know, these are great opportunities for people who've missed out on the rally, perhaps to jump in. Is that the sense that you're getting from the dealing rooms as well?
Not really, Sonia. So again, as you spoke about being a truncated week, at the index level, the markets were down 2 to 3%. But you know, something contrast has happened. You know, a lot of individual winners as well in this week market. Like look at something like Exide Industries. That's talking about 15% this week. The likes of Bharti Airtel, Indus Tower, all the buzzing intel, the entire metal pack continue to outperform. So, well, at the index, you may look like 2 to 3% fall and all, but not was the case for individual names. And I'll talk about MidCaps as well. But before that, from a flow perspective, the big takeaway was that there was aggressive selling from the FIs. So that is something we need to account for. The FIs still continue to be big sellers in the cash market. The other contrasting feedback was, or maybe the data also suggests that there was a lot of outperformance in the broader market stocks. A lot of cash stocks did well this week. You know, it was a bit surprising because there were no big large flows from the domestic mutual funds, nor were the larger HNIs been quite active. But a lot of mid-cap, small-cap stocks in the cash segment did very well. The stocks were up 30, 40, 50% in some pockets. So again, that was a bit of a surprising element for this in this market this week. I guess from a technical point of view, 21,800 is a level to watch on the downside. If that gets taken out, probably, you know, this will open up a big downfall for the Indian markets. That's been a big level to watch. But again, I guess, and you're going to point it out as well, because there's going to be very large earnings in the next 2 weeks. So that's going to dominate the market. But for me, for this week, while the index looked flat, there were a lot of individual winners, both in the FNO market as well as in the broader markets.
Well, that's right. You know, for the week itself, if you look at it, we had 4 straight weeks where we had gains. And then for this week, if you look at the small cap, mid cap, the Nifty bank, everything was down anything between 1.5% to around 3% approximately. We moved in a band of close to around 800 points. At the start of this week, you thought 22,500 is there for the taking. Well, we almost visited 21,700 on the downside. So we moved in the 3.5% odd band, which is around 800 points odd. 40 out of 50 Nifty stocks actually ended in the red. You know, that's the point that Nimesh was making as well. So 40 out of 50 stocks ending in the red from the Nifty itself. That's telling you there was a fair bit of selling on large cap stocks. And the big triggers, it was a very eventful week. We'll say it was a 4-day week, but you had everything out there. You know, you had geopolitical risk. You had earnings that played out. Prashant normally is talking about, you know, how select voting and non-voting members are sounding dovish. This week, Prashant, that was missing. You know, we had only hawkish statements that came out from most of them. So that's playing on the minds as well. And obviously, the Lok Sabha elections as well did kickstart. Large cap losers, Infosys, yes, it recovered from the low point post its numbers, but for the week it was down 5%. Tata Motors as well had a dream run. Some money being taken off the table. That one as well was down close to 5% for the week. But the sector that I'll really be looking at post the elections will be the telecom space, because now the street is factoring in, yes, after 4-5 years, we're going to see that tariff hike. And with good reason, right? One of them need to survive out there. One of the large players, Jio, may come out with an IPO. So that's what's giving legs. And though there was a lot of talk about Vodafone Idea, the biggest gain actually was Bharti Airtel. You know, this week that stock did run away. In terms of levels, On the downside, the line in the stand will be around 21,700, which is the 100 DMA. But we're not out of the woods. Still, we get past the 20 DMA. That's at around 22,300 or so. Those are the brief levels that I'm looking at.
Just two things. One, Nimesh, you pointed out what was up and what was down. On down days as well, what I noticed was that volumes on the downside are not that much. I mean, if you count the number of stocks which went down on volumes, even this morning actually, when it was looking like a complete bloodbath, it was stocks which were going up which had all the volumes, and that is always a healthy sign. And the second thing is, usually all this flare up in the Middle East has happened over the weekends, right? I mean, the first instance when the Damascus thing happened on the weekend, the retaliation.
What do you think that is, though?
I don't know.
They have some time over the weekend.
I'm just saying that if we get through tomorrow and day after without any fresh flare up, when we come back on Monday, my sense is, and the general sense is that this is not going to flare up in any big way. We're going to go back to trading, the Fed, because that is a big, actually, it's a big story, because last September, October, the US 10-year rate hit 5%. The Fed had started to talk about a more dovish policy. The stance had become dovish, and it continued all the way. And it's just that we've had 6 strong data points, 3 sets of jobs data out of the US, which has been strong, and 3 sets of CPI numbers, which have been strong. So it was a pivot to being dovish, and it's a pivot back. And now we're actually talking about not everyone is talking, but Fed voting members are talking about whether we need another rate hike. So it's like a complete 360-degree turn that we've seen.
There's a lot of volatility, right, in the market because of that. But joining us now is Ramesh Mantri. He's the CIO at White Oak. Ramesh, make this make sense, right? I mean, whatever is happening in the market is, it's really befuddling because you don't know which way things could head. But we have a big rally under our belt as well. Do you think we can build on to these gains?
So one, this geopolitical surprises that are coming up, they're always surprises. That's why they can tend to give it. And nobody knows. And you've seen big events in Ukraine earlier, then Israel, and now constant flare up. So those are unpredictable, and they will have short-term impacts on markets. And of course, who knows if they flare up bigger, they become large impacts. I think we have to understand in India is that markets have gone slightly ahead, particularly on small cap and mid cap. So some of the corrections which have been playing out is unhealthy for market because particularly on the small caps, things have really got extended. Though there is no panic in the market, there's not seeing significant sell-off in small cap and mid cap, which tells you a sign of panic. So I think broadly we are fine. I think small corrections in here, there is normal volatility of markets. I think the India story bottom up remains very strong. We don't have major concerns about India. All the surprises are coming outside of India, whether we've been talking about the geopolitics or the Fed policy. Again, that impacts the world. Slightly, the Middle East situation impacts India slightly more because we are a massive importer of energy. And if you have to grow at 7%, we'll remain a very large importer of energy for a long time. So we are vulnerable to crude and gas prices. So that's the vulnerability it has in the short term. But otherwise, our fundamentals are good, earnings are good. So I think India side, the worries are not there.
All right. Well, the other big event, right, that is expected to take place is Elon Musk's India visit. Everyone's watching out for that. There is a slowdown in electric car sales across the globe. So what is the global EV picture looking like? Prashant, you've churned out some data for us.
I don't think there's any doubt, Sonia, that Elon Musk is probably the most famous CEO alive in the world, right? By far, right? And of course, with that profile on X.
Maybe the most notorious also.
Let me go across to the big wall and tell you what So Mr. Musk is going to be here, right? He's coming to India on Sunday, and he's expected to meet the Prime Minister on Monday. That's essentially the schedule. He'll go to Delhi, and that's a 2-day India visit that we are kind of looking forward to. Now, this is all happening amid a global EV slowdown. Now, we're talking about EV adoption, ICE, which is internal combustion engine, that market shrinking, and electric vehicles, battery electric vehicles taking that market share. But it looks like, that trend has stalled a little bit. But first, let me just, before I get into that, let me just quickly tell you what the big excitement is about, right? Number one, Tesla's potential, once it kind of decides to, say, set up a factory in a particular geography, the potential to attract high-tech, high-paying manufacturing jobs, I think that attraction from Tesla is unparalleled. That's number one. supply of battery metals at the highest scale and the lowest cost. I think it's now well understood that outside of Chinese companies, no one really comes close to Tesla in this regard. And this is what you need to bring down battery costs, to bring down the total unit cost of electric vehicles, because affordability is an issue if you want a wider and faster penetration. And of course, improvements in manufacturing cost and vehicle design. And of course, cost control can be more easily implemented in a greenfield capacity. I think many have said that for Tesla, the most efficient factory is going to be, quote unquote, the next one. So a lot of excitement around this particular visit. Now, let's just get to what is happening in the electric vehicle market globally. And, without going into too many details, I'll get to numbers in a bit, but Europe, battery electric vehicles are currently losing share to ICE segment, which is combustion engines. In the US, the share of BEVs, which is battery electric vehicles, has been under 8% over the last 6 months. It's kind of stagnated. And of course, China, which is by far the largest market for EVs, it's showing signs of kind of saturation. Now, let me just having said this, put the numbers up, which will show you what I'm talking about. Look at the trend, 2022, 2023, and this is the expected number in 2024. For the US, 6%, 8 is where we are, expected to go up to 9%. Europe, 16%, kind of stagnating. China, of course, is far ahead in terms of adoption. 25% is electric vehicle share there. India, about 1.5% to about 2% where it is expected to go. In India, of course, two-wheeler EVs have done much better as compared to passenger vehicles so far. And of course, this is South Korea out there as well. Again, so I mean, these numbers very clearly show you that it looks like things are stalling a little bit, maybe for the time being, it may be near term, but that's where we're at. And these are some of the key reasons why this may be so. Competition from hybrids, lower incentives in many cases. I mean, we spoke about that here in India, with those subsidies going away earlier. Infrastructure, which is, charging stations, etc. Affordability, repairability, depreciation. I could go on, but these are, a set of factors which perhaps are leading to this. China is clearly the other factor in a way. It's recognized as the clear low-cost leader in terms of EV production. There is no real doubt about that. And Western car companies are now realizing that mass EV adoption and China are very closely linked. You can't have, a high-tech Western EV produced at mass scale without support from Chinese companies in terms of battery tech, and battery material, etc. as well. And what is the hindrance? Strict trade barriers on China, which means lower EV adoption in the West, right? And it's an election year in the US, and it's unlikely that some of these restrictions, etc., will go away. What are we looking at? I mean, I found this interesting. ICE may be nice. I mean, ICE, of course, internal combustion engine. The goal, state of California, for example, very famously declared that they want to ban the sale of ICE vehicles by 2035. What is the reality? Just about a week and a half ago, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in the US, which regulates emission standards, has given more time and a slower required adoption curve for electric vehicles. So they're giving more time, which means that the runway for the legacy old ICE segment is longer here. This is what the market has done for some of the leading electric vehicle companies around the world. I've taken price change from the highs. Look at Tesla, look at other companies, US companies like Lucid Motors, but look at other Chinese makers as well. Li Auto, NIO, massive, right, correction, the fall that we've seen. And Tesla itself, some 65% off the highs. And just look at another interesting number. Tesla this year, just 2024, has lost 40% in terms of value, Tesla shares. Toyota, which perhaps is like, the other end with its ICE vehicles, etc., has gained 36% share. It kind of tells you which way the wind is blowing right now. So that's the state of the EV market right now. But as I said, it could be near term. There is no real, nobody really disbelieves the fact that we need to go electric over a period of time. But the adoption, which was thought to be very near term, it will happen very quickly, that perhaps is taking longer than what is expected. This is, of course, on the agenda. As I think I already said, Mr. Musk is going to be here. He's going to be meeting the Prime Minister, PM Modi. Him and his team will meet government officials, industry representatives, and he's likely to announce an investment plan of between $2 and $3 billion in India. Company to not only manufacture cars for India, but also export them to global markets. And of course, we'll expect to hear something on Starlink, his telecom venture, and what he plans to do with it here in India as well. Back to you guys.
Okay, well, that was about the global picture, right? But there is a whole ecosystem in India where a lot of players are going to benefit from Tesla's entry. A large part of players are also going to benefit, and a large part of that perhaps we've seen it in the stock price as well, Nimesh.
Well, if you have seen it to some extent, but again, the good news from an India perspective is that we are still at a very nascent stage. Just look at the number that I'm going to throw in. So in 2023, the total market size, IC plus EV put together, was 4.3 million sales that we did, out of which only 2% was EVs. So again, we are just scratching at the surface. There is a lot to go as far as the addressable market is concerned. I was just looking at the Morgan Stanley note, and they said that the $35,000 plus households can grow 5x in the next 10 years. So the addressable market for not only EV cars, but in general for the cars could be very, very large number from what we are sitting in today. So that's from an addressable market point of view. The other good news is that the government is quite supportive as well as far as EVs are concerned. They are working very hard for the entire ecosystem to get created. Infrastructure is getting built. There is a lot of subsidies as well, which has been thrown to a lot of companies. So again, from that perspective, looks like that there could be a big EV boom as far as India is concerned. Only time will tell, but again, the numbers can be quite large over the next few years. So, which are the Indian companies or the OEMs, so to speak, which can benefit from this Tesla entering into India? Now, there are a lot of small players who are supplying very, very small components. But again, just to keep an eye on, the first stock on my list is SKF India. Now, that particular company supplies deep groove ball bearings and ceramic ball bearings to Tesla. So that's something to track from that particular company. The second big name is Sundaram Fasteners. They've been supplying gear transmissions and radiator caps to Tesla. So that's another company. Suprajit Engineering is another company which supplies light duty cables. Since 2022, they've done a tie-up. So that's one more small company. Sandhar Tech is another company which provides wiper systems to its Mexico plant since 2017. The other big name to track would be Samudra Motherson, big OEM player in India, and they've been supplying components to Tesla since 2018. So again, 50% will be sourced from India, right? So that will be a big supplier to Tesla as and when it comes. So the other name is Varroc Engineering. They supply small lamps to one of the models of Tesla. So again, they can benefit. Interestingly, only recently, Tata Electronics had signed a tie-up with Tesla, and they're going to supply semiconductor chips. And the last name is Panasonic. Now, Panasonic has formed a JV with IOC for battery manufacturing. And globally, the parent Panasonic provides a lot of batteries to Tesla. So again, these are the small players which can really benefit with Tesla's entry into India.
I just want to add one more to that, which is Ramakrishna Forgings. They also recently, 2 days ago, they spoke to us and they said that they've received an order for machine components from the largest EV player in the US. Of course, they didn't name Tesla, but we all know. And it's 400 crores per year is the order that they're getting for that. I just had one question to ask Ramesh Mantri before I toss it over to Nigel. Ramesh, one of the stocks in focus this week was Bajaj Auto, right? And of course, the numbers were good, etc. But just coming back to this whole EV play, Bajaj Auto is also in focus because now the IPOs of Ola and Ather are expected as well, and this whole EV ecosystem for two-wheelers is growing. The penetration is 6% for two-wheeler EVs compared to passenger EVs at just about 2%. So do you think if you want to play the EV theme, this is a good way to do it?
Yeah, so in India, the adoption of EV has first started with three-wheelers and two-wheelers. Three-wheelers because of public policy nudge, and two-wheelers simply because the subsidies are targeted on two-wheelers, and number two, the charging is much easier for two-wheeler, and so combination of those two factors. And by the way, India is predominantly on the consumer auto market is a two-wheeler market. The core market is much smaller. So clearly, the first adoption of EV will happen in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler. Cars will follow, and clearly, number of Indian auto OEMs have now started, making credible play in the EV apart from Ola and Ather, which are the new challengers in the two-wheeler market. So it's an exciting space. I think that this is one space where we'll see good adoption. The subsidies, of course, have got reduced. So that's a short-term headwind for them. But I think, now already the cost of acquisition of a EV is comparable to a ICE vehicle in certain categories in two-wheelers. So considering the running costs are very low, there's a clear consumer value proposition for buying two-wheelers. And three-wheelers, again, it's working out phenomenally for on in India. So these are the two categories which will see adoption. I would say that a number of Indian OEMs, the traditional ones, are also started doing well with their products in the market.
All right, Ramesh, noted that point. Have any of you all sat in a Tesla or driven?
Yes, I have. I recently sat in a Tesla, the Model 2, and it's fabulous. I mean,
in I think 2019-20, I was in the United States, and it was unreal.
Yeah.
I drove it, and when you just click on that auto command and the wings open up, whoa, it was unreal. So
it's become so accessible now. So recently when I had gone to Dubai, most of the Ubers are now Teslas. So it's become very accessible as well. Hopefully the cheaper 20 lakh version will be out in India soon.
Nigel, you got the Batman-like feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll show you the video later as well. I put some music on it.
Black. But I was just wondering, with EVs, I'm assuming that families won't buy EVs as their first car, right? Most of the sales which are happening here would be adding a EV to your whatever you already have on the ICE side. I mean, I just thought and once you get it, how many people buy the next one? Or maybe you've not gotten to that cycle yet.
I think there are three reasons why people don't buy EVs in India, according to me. One is limited options. The second okay, I think they've asked us to take a short break, but I'll just complete this. Three reasons why people are not buying EVs. One is because they're limited options. Second is it's too expensive, right?
And plus infrastructure. There is no...
plus the charging, the range anxiety as we call it. Okay, we'll take a short commercial break, come back with lots more. Welcome back to Editors Roundtable. Now, next week is an important week of earnings. On Monday, you have a Reliance that will come out with their numbers. On Tuesday, there's Tata Elxsi. On Wednesday, there's Axis Bank. On Thursday, you have Bajaj Finance. And then you have HCL Tech on Friday as well. Now, for Reliance Industries, remember the stock has had a very strong run. It's up almost 30% in the last 6 months, 26% to be precise. And these numbers are expected to be quite stable, largely because of their oil and gas business. Higher oil prices, better refining margins are going to be the key triggers for Reliance Industries this time. Remember the refining business, the earnings were hurt by shutdowns last quarter. So quarter on quarter, there'll be a bit of an improvement over there. And across the board in their telecom and retail business as well, we are expecting a sequential improvement in the EBITDA for Reliance Industries. The Jio subscriber momentum is something that will continue quarter on quarter. We are expecting over 10 million net additions of subscribers this time. Ramesh, in fact, I wanted your thoughts on the telecom segment on the whole. It was one of the big movers this week. There was so much news flow on Vodafone as well. From an investor standpoint, how do you approach it now?
One, there is a clear market belief that there's going to be tariff 5, hopefully post-elections, a big tariff 5, 18 to 20%. And maybe the government, clearly they don't want to a duopoly to emerge in the sector in a 3-player market. So one, pricing has to rationalize. There's just data mobile is too cheap in India. We are the cheapest data in the world. We are the maximum users of data. So this has to be the big companies in the sectors have invested hundreds of billions of dollars over the years. And you want to see them earning reasonable return on capital if they have to continue to invest. So clearly you want to see these price hikes come through. And if there is some concession on the AGR request from the Supreme Court, then it'll be good for, particularly one of the third player. So I think there's many ways to invest in the sector. One, of course, you can just stay with the large players. And of course, if you believe that the big price hikes will come through, then you can invest through the third operator, which has capital raise happening. And also then there are tower companies and other ways to participate. So, but clearly the pricing hikes have to come through. That is imperative.
All right, Ramesh, thank you for your time and joining us on the channel. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. And to all of you folks, thanks a lot for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll be here with you once again bright and early on Monday.